got another hopefully easy project to do on my F-350. The truck has airbags installed, but there are no hoses or fittings to allow me to put air into the airbags. So I'm going to install the hoses. So yeah, this truck came with airbags in it, and just in case you don't know what airbags are, they go in the rear suspension and between the axle and the frame, I guess, and they provide extra support that's adjustable for when you're carrying heavy loads in the back of your truck. So if you put a bunch of stuff in the back and then your truck starts to sag down, then you inflate the airbags and then it comes back up to where it should be. So there you can see that's the airbag right there. It's nice that someone installed those. I have no idea why there's no hoses to fill them up. Up on the top up here, there should be a little hose that comes out kind of inside there. There's a hose fitting there right now, but there's nothing coming out of it. And right here you can see the fitting for the hose. This thing, it has this sort of sleeve that moves in and out a little bit, and you just push the hose in and it clicks in place, and then if you want to remove the hose, you push this plastic sleeve over to the left, in, and then it will release the hose. I have this piece of wood right here. I need to mount the other end of the hose, which has a valve on it. It's just like, or it's the same connector that you have on the truck tires, and you just put your air line onto there to pump up the airbags. So here's the kit I got for the hoses. It's from Airlift is the brand, and I bought this a while ago because I knew I was going to be doing this project, and today I just looked at the airbags and they're actually the same brand. So this is the hose. It's one piece of hose that has two threaded ends on it, and this is like your standard Schrader valve here, but it's kind of long. So it can be fed through a mounting plate, and you got these washers and nuts to keep it in place. And yeah, so this is one piece of hose, and there's one airbag on each side, so I'm going to need to cut this into two pieces. It's plenty long enough, and I'm thinking that I'll probably just cut it in half, and in case I end up changing the mounting, the way I do the, mount these valves. In case I change that before, it'd be nice maybe to have a little extra hose, but I'll see how that works out. There's kind of two ways to do this. Well, there's probably more than that, but two main ways. You can have one hose on each side, and then there would be a separate valve for the left side and the right side of the truck. You could have a T fitting, and you could have a single valve that you put air into, and then the air is going to fill up both the airbags at the same time, so they would be the same pressure. I did some Googling on that, and sounds like people, they have reasons for doing it either way. I didn't like the idea of being on a corner and then having the air shifting from one side to another. That just seems that doesn't sound good to me, I guess. So I'm going to have just a separate fill valve for the airbag on each side of the truck. And then later I'm going to probably, depending on how much I use these, I'll look at some kind of air compressor to mount on the truck. Either for an automated filling of these or just a manual filling, but to have an air compressor that I could use for other things in the truck, I think would be nice. Here's the center of the hose, and one of the things that they mention in the instruction manual is that you don't want to cut this at an angle, and it needs to be a clean cut. So I have these hose cutters that are pretty good for this kind of thing. It's just this sort of pointed blade, and it has a sort of a notch here that holds the hose in place so that you get a good clean straight cut with it. You can see I got a good clean cut here on the ends of the hose. So the other thing I had to kind of figure out was how I was going to mount the valve ends of these onto that piece of wood, and I thought I might go to the hardware store and get some metal brackets, like angle brackets, because I have some angle iron, but it's kind of thick, and I don't think it needs to be that heavy duty, and I just don't feel like doing a lot of drilling through thick metal right now. So I figured I'd go get some like thin kind of galvanized corner brackets and use those. But I think I found something in the garage here that will work, because I'd kind of like to get this finished right now. So I have these are like mounting brackets from a window, like a roller shade for a window, and they're just little bent pieces of metal. So let's take a look at these. So one of them looks like this. This isn't going to be, I could probably use this, but it's not ideal. But this one looks perfect. So what I'm going to do is this will get screwed up into the bottom of that wood, and then I'm going to take out these little plastic things. I'll drill out one of those holes a little bit bigger so that this will fit through. So it'll kind of go through like that, and then that'll hold it, I think, perfectly. This is just for something for now, and later when I get some metal to redo that piece of wood in the back, then I'll rethink this. But this will give me a chance to kind of see how things work anyway, and then maybe I'll want to do it differently when I put it all back together. Got the valves mounted from these little window shade brackets next to the license plate. And then the hose heads back underneath the flatbed. You can see the hose, this is above the tire, kind of heads forward, and then mounts on the top of the airbag, goes into that little fitting. I cut off the excess because there wasn't really an easy way to coil it up under here, and I just didn't want it dangling around, so it just didn't seem safe. But I secured it with a couple of cable ties. There's one right there, and then there's another one towards the back. I haven't tightened those yet because I want to make sure that this all works. But having those hose cutters was really nice when I was trying to trim off the excess underneath here. Probably would have been a bit of a pain trying to use a knife for that. So I got my air compressor fired up, and I'm going to try putting some air in these and see what happens. Hopefully they hold air. I'm up to 50 psi, and yeah, it's holding fine, seems like. Oops. And the mood goes just like that. Seems like both of these are leaking. So I gotta figure out what I need to do here. Look at those bubbles. Right, mood is improving dramatically. So when I push those the hoses into those air fittings, because this is really my first time working with those, and I pushed them in and they kind of stopped, and I could, like, there was a little click, but it turned out that I didn't push it in far enough. So I really kind of jammed on that hose, and then it kind of popped in like a whole, like at least like a quarter of an inch or 3/8 of an inch more, and then it was like totally solidly in there. And so I sprayed some more of that leak check bubble stuff on there, and now there's no bubbles. So you really got to jam those hoses into those fittings. So I think I just need to tighten my cable ties and the nuts that are holding the Schrader valves into the brackets, and then I'm done. Yeah. I still, obviously I'm going to need to experiment with how these work, and I'm hoping to head to the dump tomorrow with a big load. So, well, yeah, I'll probably be messing with the air pressure when I do that. But I'm really psyched that it seems like these work. The airbags work. I was kind of worried that maybe they were popped or something like that, and yeah, it's kind of relief. This was a pretty easy project to get those hoses attached, so pretty stoked. Got one of these step things for the hitch receiver. There's all different options for these, and I kind of wanted a plastic one. I was thinking, like, I'd rather not have a big hunk of metal just rattling around back here. So this one, it's pretty heavy duty. Yeah, I'll have to see how it works. I like that it's kind of lightweight, and it's sort of like heavy rubber almost. But it's not gonna be making noise back here. So that's kind of cool. And then the other thing I just did, just to like wrap up this day. So this, when I got this truck, there's all these holes in the bed, and I think there were cabinets or something along the side here, and those were maybe used to hold them in, but there were all these bolts just rattling around in there, and I was able to unscrew a bunch of them with a vice grip pliers, and it wasn't super easy, like trying to hold the top, above the bed with one arm and reach underneath with the other arm. Probably would have been easier with two people, but anyway, there were two left that were rusted solid, and I couldn't get them out, so I ground them down with this angle grinder with this little grinding pad, and it's nice to have these out, and so they won't be rattling around. That's kind of like one of my many pet peeves, is just like stuff that rattles that doesn't need to be there. And so the spare tire carrier is probably the next thing to look at. That's really rattly. But yeah, the problem with that is that there's no spare tire in there. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do about that. Gonna have to get new tires eventually. You know, these aren't in super great shape, the ones that are on here, so maybe when I do that, I'll find another rim and then get 5 tires. I don't know if these tires are too big to fit in there or something, but I'm sure I'll be doing some research on that and figuring that stuff out, so that'll be fun. Anyway, that's it for tonight. That's enough work for one day. One more follow-up. I think this is the last. It's just so satisfying to be able to work on a project like this, and I'm thankful to have the tools that I need to be able to do something like this, and the space for it, and even just like the physical ability. You know, I've got a little bit of a issue with my shoulder right now, but it's not so bad that I'm incapacitated. So that just kind of makes me appreciate having the ability to be able to do fun projects like this. So I don't take it for granted, and I think it's good to acknowledge that. So I've been working on my F-350 for a few months, and the truck has been parked for, it's like 3 or 4 months, I guess. You know, me repairing the seat, which took a while, driver's seat, and doing some other things on it. So we are about to start it up for the first time in a few months, and got 2 new batteries in there, and I've had those on a battery maintainer, so those should be good. And yeah, I'm hoping that it starts up okay, and I guess we'll find out in a second here. Yeah, I'm super stoked that this thing is working. Seems like it's running good, so let's go for an errand.